We're joined on the line by Dave Rubin. David is host of the Rubin Report and author of the new book, Don't Burn This Book. It is available everywhere now. Dave, good to talk to you, sir.
Shapiro, are you sick of me yet? We've been talking a lot lately. All right, we're in lockdown together, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, well, the only thing that separates us is the vagary of Zoom. So his new book is Don't Burn This Book. And the book really is about how Dave traveled from being a guy who was on the Young Turks to being a conservative. He now works over at Blaze TV. And it's also about the censorship culture that America is currently engaged in. It's incredible to watch as that censorship culture sort of shifts and moves into pandemic phase, because there is this sort of censorship culture that has emerged when it comes to the pandemic. What do you make of the bizarre spectacle of so many people who don't want to have open conversations about serious public policy issues when it comes to this pandemic, Dave?
Yeah, well, first off, Ben, if I would have had anyone intro me on any show 3 years ago and say that I could be considered anything close to a conservative, I probably would have gone bananas. And now, as I tell you all the time, defending my liberal principles has become a conservative position. So I would say, yes, in many ways, I now am a conservative. It just is. As far as the tech censorship and everything else, I mean, look, we all know that we've had a major problem with big tech, and that YouTube and Google and Twitter and Facebook have loomed too large over too much of our lives for too long. We all got in for free, except we didn't realize that it was our souls that were going to pay the price. And now they own everything about us. And, just in the last couple of days, Susan Wojcicki, the CEO of YouTube, you and I have had some private contact with, she's basically said, if you put anything on YouTube against WHO rules or edicts or whatever you want to call it, that they're going to take that stuff down. And it's so incredibly dangerous at so many levels. First off, the WHO is not an infallible organization. There is no such thing as an infallible organization. Now, they're supposed to be a scientific organization that's supposed to figure out how to deal with these types of pandemics. But, science is constantly trying to find better answers for everything, so that they themselves have been wrong on things. I mean, let's not forget that just about 5-6 weeks ago, they were telling people not to wear masks. Now they're telling everyone to wear masks. So the idea that they're going to run around taking videos off YouTube gets to the broader point, which is that right now, our ability to communicate with each other, and especially in a time of coronavirus where it's like, you and I can't meet for coffee as we've done. You know what I mean? It's like we don't live that far apart. We can't even do that right now. Our Fourth Amendment, the right to assemble, has in effect been suspended. Now, we can debate whether the measures, are too much or too little or the rest of it. But we had a big tech problem before, and we have a way bigger big tech problem right now, because there is literally no other way to communicate. And we had better start thinking about it, and fast. And in many ways, it's too late because too many of us acquiesced for too long.
So let's talk about the lockdown here in California. So both you and I are in lockdown in California. The state government continues to want to lock down, apparently, until the aliens come or something. Like something is going to change months from now, and then we will all not be locked down anymore. It's interesting to see how this has become such a political issue, the lockdowns. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that there is this widespread perception on the right that I think is at least half justified, that there are folks on the left who want to take advantage of the situation in order to radically reshift the nature of the relationship between government and the citizenry. It seems like all the people who are out there saying data and science are driving this are ignoring the fact that data and science, we can all agree on that. The question is competing values, including values of freedom, liberty, quality of life, and economic health.
Yeah, well, you're hitting all the right points there. I mean, this actually is very much in line with what my book is about. And as you know, you've written a couple of books. I finished writing this thing back in July. And the fact that it's so relevant now shows you that time-tested ideas are the way to go, and not just, we have a crisis and let's figure out how all of the things that we want to be true, all of the ways we want to rejigger the economy, we can suddenly take advantage of a crisis and make happen, which is exactly what AOC and the rest of the crew are doing. Look, for people like you and I, LA, where we live, has had a little resurgence of, I would say, a conservative and libertarian think spot, basically. I mean, look, you're here, I'm here, Prager's here. Peter Thiel left San Francisco to come to Los Angeles. So that tells you something good was brewing here. But, Ben, the sad truth is that, for people that believe broadly the things that you and I believe in, and probably most of your listeners believe in, it's like we live in Los Angeles with a progressive mayor. We live in California with a progressive governor. And, at the same time, it's not like the state is working. If progressive policies work, if big government high tax policies work, well, then our teachers wouldn't be on strike all the time, but they're always on strike. And then who do they blame? They somehow blame the Republicans who haven't been in power here in decades. So, yes, we're seeing a certain set of political people use this opportunity to basically be like, oh, the stuff that I've wanted to try forever that really hasn't been in place, well, this is just the perfect time to do it. And, for me personally, you know where I fall sort of on the libertarian side of things. And I'm just going to be one of the people that's just going to keep pushing to start freeing us. And I think there's going to be a cost with that. And we have to honestly talk about that cost. We could open up tomorrow and we know that restaurants will maybe have less people in there and maybe you'll still have to wear some masks, but we have to start opening. We're going to forget the old world. That's what I'm worried about. We're 6 or 7 weeks into this thing. And it almost feels like a lifetime ago that we could just walk around and be free and you could go for a beer and grab a slice of pizza. And I don't want to go too much longer with this because we will forget. And then, what's on the other side of that? Well, it probably looks a lot like China. And frankly, I don't want to live in China.
So, Dave, obviously, your movement from sort of the political left to the political right is particularly interesting for folks who don't know that Dave is a gay man who is married. That means that that makes him an absolute outcast among people on the left. If you are gay and you are conservative or libertarian, then you have sinned against the left on a deep level. I mean, I sort of get this because Jews are also not supposed to be particularly conservative, which is particularly weird because Jewish values obviously on a traditional level don't align with the Democratic Party. But Dave, what is your comparison story between being a gay man in the sort of conservative libertarian world versus being conservative in the leftist world?
Yeah, look, it's sort of interesting because first off, I like the way you preface that because, the simple fact that I'm gay and married or whatever really has very little to do with my political beliefs or my beliefs about the world in general, other than I can't say that it has no attachment to it, right? So it is something. It does make you look at the world from a little bit of an outsider perspective. What I can tell you is this: when I was part of the left, there was sort of an obsession with my sexuality because they can sort of use that. See, we are good. We have gay people. We have black people. We have women. And of course, at the surface level, that sort of sounds right. It's like, oh, well, here are all these people cheering me on. They're cheering me on because I'm gay. How wonderful. And as I've left the left and embraced by people on the right, what I found is because people on the right believe in individual rights and people on the right basically are live and let live, it's like nobody really cares. I don't know anyone that cares. And the contingent that really cared, let's say like the Rick Santorum, Mike Huckabee contingent. Well, first off, I would absolutely always defend their religious liberty, just as I always defend your religious liberty. But secondly, they're not really screaming about gay marriage anymore. The ship has sailed. So I view this more as a non-issue on the right, particularly libertarians who just want the government out of it altogether. But I would say, one of the things that I think is the best sort of political bright spot we have right now is conservatives, I think, in a new way are living up to their ideals. Conservatives really are, I think, trying to allow other people to live a little bit differently. And it doesn't mean that they endorse it or personally love it or going to do it themselves. But I think conservatives understand that, unless you want to live in a religious theocracy, then there's going to be some different people here. And I'm very enthused about that. And then most of the other things about being on the right related to small government and states' rights and taxes and foreign policy, those things are just an extension of once you start thinking about things, they just start making a lot more sense. So I would say my evolution is one that's pretty obvious, and it's sort of why I get the hate that I get. Because, the left doesn't like letting you walk, and they really don't want to let a minority walk. They can't have gays just going and saying what they think. They can't let a black person get out there like Larry Elder and say what he thinks. They can't have a woman like Nikki Haley or Sarah Huckabee Sanders or anyone else just get out there and say what they think. They want to control you, and I just refuse to live like that.
Well, Dave Rubin, his new book is Don't Burn This Book. You can also listen to The Rubin Bork or watch it over at Blaze TV. Dave, really appreciate the time. Good luck with the book. It's already soaring up the bestseller charts. Congrats on it.
Shapiro, thanks a lot, and stay safe, my friend.
I hope you enjoyed that clip from The Ben Shapiro Show. If you did, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you stay up to date on all of our future content.